So yeah, this is Dipped Stormcast. Now she looks alright. I would imagine, I think it's a she. She looks okay. If we get, if she was painted and then you dipped her, I don't think that would be too bad. Although the way that it's kind of pooled on some of these flatter areas, yeah, you'd have to spend a bit of time keeping on top of where the shade went, especially on this large area of cape. So I'm not a big fan of using the dipping method, but we've tried it, and that's what it looks like.
Hey Hamish, you're just in time for comparisons.
Good evening. Good evening. Right, so this is right hand side is Vallejo dipping black brushed on, and the right hand side is new Nuln oil.
Wild Pokemon in chat. Wild Pokemon in chat. I'm sure you said right hand side twice.
Slowpoke.
Which side is which, baby?
Right, so right hand side over here, this one that I'm pointing at, this is the right hand side. Okay, so this is Vallejo dipping stuff, big Vallejo game wash pot, and if you can see the base. So, and then on the left hand side of the mini is new Nuln oil. Now, there's on the base there is very little to tell between them, but when you look at the actual mini itself, here on the right hand side we've definitely got a darker tone, I think, on the right hand side, and then over here on the left hand side is very more grey, apart from where we've got some heavy pooling in the larger recesses down the bottom of the mini. And if we look at the back, so the Vallejo one has a bit like the dipped version, so I don't know if you can see that very well, but there's almost like it's picked up sort of micro textures in the spray where the Nuln oil hasn't. It's almost like it's been undercoated in two different paints. But can you see from the difference on the shoulder pads? So this is the Vallejo at this side over here, and this is the Nuln oil over here at this side. It's definitely a much lighter tone that I think has shaded much better in the recesses. So that's what we've got there. So it might be more expensive, but it does give different results. I guess that's what we're looking at so far. So that is that one. And then we've got old Nuln oil versus new Nuln oil on this mini. So here we go.
Towards your tummy.
Okay. So right hand side is old Nuln oil, and left hand side over here is new Nuln oil. And again, you can see I think a noticeable difference between the two, old and new. So the old one has pooled in kind of obvious areas around the edge of this shoulder guard and what have you, where the new one has sunk in and deposited itself much nicer around the edges. And now let's flip them over, look at the back. So this is old Nuln oil here on the left hand side, and again you can tell by the shoulder guards and what have you that the new Nuln oil is definitely a lot smoother. It's like it's I don't know, almost like it's got flow improver mixed in. Maybe it has. Maybe that's the difference. But yeah, definite really nice transition in there. So if you're translating from old to new Nuln oil, this is what you can expect, but it isn't quite as dark. So even on the skirt area here down the bottom, it's made the whole thing kind of grayer, whereas on the new side, it's left this top area very pale and just allowed the shade to sediment into the creases. So let's put him out of the way. That's Nuln oil duns discussed. Right, so here we have that sepia colour. So this is Vallejo Sepia, which I think looks absolutely glorious. I'm loving it. I think it looks really fantastic. Might have to have a bit more of a play with this. and then Agrax Earthshade. So this is new Agrax Earthshade on the left-hand side. Now, obviously, that's still a bit wet in the recesses, but they're not a direct comparison because the sepia is a very golden colour, and the Agrax is definitely a darker brown. Now, I think that this is definitely more a redder brown than the older Agrax, but we'll look at that direct comparison here in a second. But let's just reflect slightly more on what a beautiful golden shade this sepia is. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. That's the Vallejo Sepia, which I don't know why I never really thought about that before, but I think it looks fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And here we are, onto direct comparison. Old Agrax Earthshade here on the right hand side, compared to new Agrax Earthshade on the left hand side. So again, a bit like the Nuln oil, we've got much better pooling and shading on the shoulder pads from the new colour, but it is definitely lighter on the body. So as we look down the kind of difference between the two halves of the Mini, so much darker, grimier finish on the right hand side, and on the left hand side here, the new formula, definite smoother. I mean, obviously I've just blathered it on, so you can definitely see the difference. It's definitely a lot smoother, a lot paler on the highlighted areas, or the higher areas, sorry, and is still pooling quite nicely in the heavy recesses. And again on the back side, quite a dirty looking finish on the left hand side, which is the old Agrax, and again on the shoulder pads, we've got a little bit of excess pooling there on that shoulder, but otherwise these shoulder guards, the new one, definitely much cleaner than the old brand. So, I mean, you can make up your own minds about which one you think is better. Hi Pete, Pete's back. Make up your own minds what you think. I think the new one gives a better finish. If I'm honest, I think it's a good thing that they've changed it. However, I don't like the fact that the pot's got smaller and the price is the same. So that's my personal thought. However, we're not going to be able to get the old one anymore without paying silly money for it on internet auction sites. So I think that we're just going to have to get used to the new formula, aren't we?
So, did you compare it to the contrast paint, and is it a matte or gloss finish?
They're definitely drying matte. Once they've fully dried, we'll show you a direct comparison. Now here is a comparison. This guy's still drying between the so this is new Nuln oil here on the right hand side that we've daubed all over. New Nuln oil, very light in shade. I think that would actually be pretty perfect for shading some stormtroopers, some Star Wars Legion stormtroopers. And here on the left hand side of the Mini, I've used Basilicanum Grey contrast paint because I thought that they were very similar when applying it. However, you can tell very noticeably the difference between the two. The Basilicanum Grey is definitely a lot darker finish than the Nuln oil. So let's flip him over the back and we can see it again. So Basilicanum Grey here on the right hand side. Now obviously it's still wet, still very heavy pooling in these recesses here. The Basilicanum Grey, but the Nuln oil on the left hand side, even where the shield is and what have you, you can see how kind of subtle that is in comparison. Definite difference between those two. So I thought they were the same, but they're not the same. Nuln oil definitely lighter.
So Amy says, it's not like GW to put the prices up now, you see.
It's not like GW to put the prices up, Amy says, but they've not, Hamish. The prices are exactly the same. They've just made the pots smaller.
Yeah, that's new pot versus old pot. But And it's still made in the UK. It says on the new pot, made in the UK. They've just changed the design slightly. So this one used to have a little. The old one had a little made in the UK with a United flag on, and the new one omits that. Also, it doesn't have the Warhammer logo on, which I think is a bit strange. But seeing as they spent a fortune rebranding all their stores and what have you as Warhammer stores, but hey, the new pots are indeed the same size as the contrast paints. There is a comparison between new Nuln Oil and Basilicanum Grey, same size, 18 milliliter pots, as opposed to old style 24 milliliter pots. So, for anybody that might not be aware, they are removing Nuln Oil Gloss and Agrax Earthshade Gloss and Reichland Flesh Shade Gloss, and I think there might be a Seraphim Sepia Gloss. So they're removing those from the range, so they are another case of when they're gone, the gloss versions. But I know that they're not quite as popular, but people do like to use them for shading metals and things, don't they? I understand. So there you go. Look, that's it. That's perfectly filled an hour.
Yeah, do you want to show what I've been...
Oh yeah,
I've
let's
been messing about
have a look at
while
Mrs. MLG's mini that she's been painting.
Messing.
Speed paint. She's cracked this off in an hour.